This is Ion Elections, where we follow the developments of the Toronto mayoral by-elections with the objective of identifying the ideal candidate. Today, we welcome candidate for mayor Kiri Vadivelu. Kiri is running under the brand the Socialist Mayor. This opens the door for a very interesting interview. Welcome, Kiri.
Thank you, Mark. That's a nice, brief, and cute introduction. I like that.
Yes.
It's a nice meeting you, and I see that you're doing quite a bit of work in your community coming from an international across the border. So that's really, really good to see that, and I'm glad to have you because I think we will be able to share multiple perspectives. As you introduced, I'm Kiri, and I'm running for Toronto Mayor in this election in 2023, and I'm running under the Socialist program, which is put together by the people, the activists who united during the pandemic to save lives in the city. I was a tenant activist. I'm a tenant union organizer, and I do have a tenant union that I lead in the building that I live. Like me, there's several other individuals who came in the pandemic, united to put the interests of the people before profit, and we formed an alliance that's called Municipal Socialist Alliance. From that activist group, there are several community experts came together. So like I mentioned, I'm from a tenant organizing point of view, and there's climate justice activist, and there's economist, and there's political activist, and there's many different individuals that came together with a common interest to put people and our lives before profit. And we were like, it wasn't a planned plan to have this kind of the election when we came together, but then afterwards we felt it necessary for us to advance our work in the political side, because we cannot, as people, we can organize, we can have individual groups, but there's only so much we can do as people, as organized non-partisan and advocacy group. So that became a bottleneck, and then we realized there was a political activist group, that political alliance we needed, which then that became the Socialist Alliance that we formed, and the program was put together by all the individuals from all different community point of views. Among our group, and we were trying to look for, we were pretty much shopping for a candidate who would run on our platform instead of one of us in the community. It's because none of us are political experts.
That is an elephant in the room, and I wanted to ask you, because the word socialist has so much negative connotations in the Western world, and you're running for a mayor in a major city in the Western world, some would consider that political suicide. And perhaps that's why there's difficulty in getting someone to run on your platform. However, I think there is value to be added here if we can understand what socialist policy would look like and how socialist policies would benefit the people of Toronto.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question, Mark. I think that's when we come across our street campaigning, that's a common question we get asked. We have an obligation to answer that, and we use every opportunity to explain what socialism means. Socialism, like I mentioned, it's a political philosophy that puts the interest of the people before profit, and that's pretty much opposite of capitalism, the system that we are most part of the world is run by. It's the thing is, socialism is actually a way of organizing our society and to provide a economical framework for our for the community and the people. The problem why the negative perception comes is obviously is from Adolf Hitler, who actually was part of the socialist group, and I mean he was running on a socialist platform, and he became the fascist, and that's where the negative perception actually really started off against socialists. And at that time, historically, there was a lot of technical barriers. I mean, during the Great Depression in Germany at the time, when he became a leader of Socialist Party, obviously he's a fascist himself, but the political climate was so toxic, and the socialists were supportive of the war. So that's where the Russian socialists and German socialists divided. They were against each other. They were like, oh, we are socialists. We are not supposed to support any war. We are anti-war. We are anti-capitalist. That's our framework. And why would you support a war?
So the idea of socialism that you've described, simply put, is that socialism puts people before profit, and capitalism puts profit before people. Am I correct in that simple breakdown?
Absolutely, and that's what it's get down to.
Yeah. So if that is the case, right? And I happen to be also a fan of Sadhguru, and one of his nice quotes is that all business should be in the service of the people. We create business to provide a service, and somehow the service then becomes bigger than the need, because we generate profits and we don't no longer want to resolve the problem. We want to exploit the problem, and that is how our systems appear to work. Now, how do we take that socialist ideology and apply it to specific issues and policies affecting the people of Toronto? One of mine is housing. How would you give me an example of a socialist policy that would alleviate the housing challenges and homelessness that we're having in Toronto?
Oh, yes, another really good question. That's an issue that Toronto is having right now, like many well-developed cities. And first of all, I really wanted to touch this. Homelessness is one of the most hardest challenges in politics to deal with, but there is most European cities were able to adapt much better than North American cities, like the United States and Canada, particularly right now in Canada, Toronto.
Yes,
it's on the wrong path. Why? Because is our city, based on the capitalist framework, it sees poverty as a problem that can be solved by policing, and funding all goes toward policing. And if you would notice, right in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, we were organizing tenants and to protect homes, and our city of Toronto dispatched police to process eviction orders so that corporate CEOs can make their shareholders happy in the middle of the pandemic. And when people are dying, and there was an eviction moratorium was in place at the time. So this actually goes to show how our government, it's corrupted and colluded with the capitalist system that actually puts people's, that puts profit before people's lives. And even the SERP, that immediate social benefit that was provided by the government was not to support the people or the tenants, but rather is to provide a bailout for landlords who are losing money in their corporations, big corporations, by the way. So how socialists would address is that we advocate for all general landlords to be expropriated, and that's to be made public. That should be controlled by the government. Housing is not a profit commodity. It's a necessity. People have needs for need to live.
Need. It's definitely a human need.
Yes. And those needs should not be in the hand of few people who control the profit. To further stress the point, these big corporations took money from federal government to provide housing, and they use that money to steal the existing housing and they renovated and they decided to sell it, make it as a unaffordable condo instead of providing basic housing solutions.
So
That's
what
right.
you're describing is the mentality of business becomes profiting of a problem in society as opposed to providing a solution to that problem. That I see when you exploit the people and exploit the problems, that I see as a capitalist mentality. So my question to you is, we have a bigger problem than the policies and programs that are being operated. We have a leadership mindset problem. How do we, before we can even attempt to get socialist type policies implemented and work for the people, we have to affect the mindset of the macro leaders. How do we go about dealing with that and to get them to adopt a people first mentality?
Yes, it is a challenge, and is a leadership right now in the revolutionary front. The leadership needs real leaders to come forward to stand up on a platform. That's why we deliberately have our platform based on socialist framework. We are not hiding anything, because it is a, we are not trying to put any mask on it. It's an actual framework. It's a early foundational, our fathers like Marx and Engels, who came up with this system that almost 300 years ago. Their findings, their literatures is still true today. And
yes,
we stand on those existing principles, political principles. It's not something that we invented today or yesterday, or it's not that one day I was in shower, I came up with a great idea. No. But these are existing frameworks that we stand on. When it comes to the basics of politics, it comes down to either socialism or barbarism. Barbarism is the capitalist, the extension of capitalism, which becomes, that you explained really well, where exploit the problem and the people. Whereas socialism, it's on the other hand, it's where that workers have control over the city hall. Workers have the control over the government, such as participatory budget process. That people have say on where the money is going. Right now, people have, once, if somebody's got elected in the mayor or in any councillor role, nobody has any say in where the money is going. For example, that's why they were able to, jack up the police budget and keep housing prices unaddressed. And for an example, they talk about, because again, the individuals in the capitalist framework, they work on the reform system, right? We are anti-colonial framework, so we have a different approach to the same problem, but we have a more sustainable economy, more climate priority policies, and these are things are by default in our program, socialist program. That's why we call ourselves socialist, and that's why we run on that program. The capitalism is a way of believing that money in the hands of few individuals is going to do good. For example, I'll say another hypocrisy is Bill Gates. He flies on private jet all the time, and he talks about climate change, and he tells we should be using paper straws. But well, we know how hard it is to use a paper straw, and that is just a reform mindset, and it doesn't work. And the real climate crisis is that him going on a jet, and he's going on those jets to climate emergency conferences. This is again,
yes,
it's a hypocrisy at worst.
I would like to give you an opportunity to close off by giving us your plans moving forward. If is there a particular candidate right now that you think of the leaders that would move us in the right direction that you may want to throw your support behind, or a particular candidate you think you definitely don't want to support because they would move us in the wrong direction? And so I'll leave it to your last comments and take it from there.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Yes, good. Those are really good understanding. I think right now, obviously, we have. I'm the only one who's running on the socialist framework. I'm the only one says we need system change, not climate change. I stand on those principles, and that's how I separate. And we have nearly, I believe, about 70 candidates now. And who's talking about defunding the police to fund mental health? Who's talking about changing the system and then putting people before profit? And those are issues that we need to pay attention to. And we were actually shopping for leaders who would take our platform, and we did not have one came forward to stand on those principles. And that's why within our Municipal Socialist Alliance, we had to elect a leader and bring those policies to the forefront. Again, I'm standing on shoulders of my siblings who came up with this policy to advocate for the community. And why? I mean, I wouldn't say under current system, the reform strategy will not work. It did not work, and it will not work. And we need a system change. If that system change, then whoever is advocating for that change is going to lead humanity in the right direction. And I'm yet to see one person say defund the police and fund the mental health, because our youth every week in Toronto, we have our youth come in contact with police, and especially the colored youth. If you're a person of color, your life is really in the mercy of the police, who's holding the gun in front of you. So I mean, we refer to just Sami Yatim, racialized individuals. They get executed by police. And we had, I mean, what's wrong with previous leaders? Let's take for an example. We had some good leaders in the past, but unfortunately they were operating under the capitalist framework to do, put corporate profit and corporate interest before people. And I have yet to see a leader. And if I do see a leader, I have no problem endorsing one. Again, I'm not in a competition with anyone. I'm really pulling the policy forward. Just one more thing is, we say, that like you said earlier, like we cannot, what we preach has to be in practice. And that's why our policy is to say, to protect climate, we say fund make transit free in the city of Toronto. Why? Because most European cities, that's a system, it works for them, and that's how. And it emissions. Yes, reduces the emission, and it helps working class people and students who uses transit. The students and the working class people, the class, yes, and they would benefit, and that will save the environment. And by saving those environment, we are doing two things at once. And that's, I mean, those are the principles that we stand on. Again, that is just one of them. I invite everyone to take a look at our program. It's Kiri-Vadivelu.ca or socialistalliance.ca. And it's if anybody can read our program, I don't think they would find any candidate worth voting for. It's just that I'm so principled on those, and I really invite everybody to take a look. And thanks again for your time.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Hopefully, we will work together and identify the ideal candidate for Toronto, which is the objective of this particular project. Thanks again, Kiri, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for taking the time to watch our presentation. For more information on the critical issues that affect us, please visit our website, advocateforchange.com. And don't forget to subscribe and share. Thanks again. Have a great day.